Hello and welcome to The Gaggle, where we challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Szamuely. Here with me today, of course, is co-founder of The Gaggle, Peter Lavelle, host also of RT's talk show, Crosstalk. Well, Peter, last week, the UK Defense Secretary, about whom we've spoken before, Ben Wallace, visited Belgrade and signed an agreement with the Serbian defense minister, Nebojša Stefanovic, in which the two countries got together and signed on to enhanced military cooperation. Wallace said something like, Britain wants Serbia to be, quote, at the top table, unquote. And he also said that it was in the UK security interest to be engaged in post-Yugoslavia development, and Britain intends to help Serbia resist Russia's malign influence and manipulation. So there's Serbia signing on to the United Kingdom. If you remember, United Kingdom was one of the strongest advocates and participants in the 1999 bombing of Yugoslavia. Remember, Tony Blair was then prime minister, was the leader of the whole humanitarian intervention brigade at that time. We've known for a long time that NATO is desperate to get Serbia and Bosnia-Herzegovina into NATO. Those are the two missing jigsaw puzzles. Everybody else is in. Albania is in, Croatia is in, North Macedonia, Montenegro, everybody's in, with the exception of these two remaining allies of Russia. And so, we've known since the overthrow, the armed overthrow of Slobodan Milosevic in 2000, that the leaders, the non-entities who have ruled Belgrade since then, have been perfectly happy to sell out. They would have given up on Kosovo long ago, signed a recognition with Kosovo long ago. The only reason they haven't is that many Serbs really don't like it. I mean, they're not prepared to give up on Kosovo, and they're not prepared to forgive NATO what it did in '99. So, what we have is these, they come along, they made these Serbian leaders, because if you remember, in the early days after the overthrow of Milosevic, Serbia was ruled by the members of the opposition. This was the sort of the Djindjic and others. They couldn't get this entry into NATO and giving up on Kosovo through. So the West decided to back the former supporters of Milosevic. So, for instance, the current president, Vučić, had actually been an information minister under Milosevic. And they too are perfectly happy to give up on everything, but they're not able to do it because the public just isn't going to put up with it. So we have to look upon this visit by Wallace and ranting and raving about Russia's malign influence, and we want to get Serbia away from Russian as soon as possible within that context. And Serbia, which, and I think you pointed out, also as in this article, is also involved with Russia in Belarus. They say we're taking maneuvers with Russia in Belarus. So we're neutral. We're trying to be on both sides. But there's no real symmetry here, because first of all, Russia supported, diplomatically at least, Serbia in '99. Since Kosovo's independence, Russia has wholeheartedly supported Serbia's claim that Kosovo is not, an independent state, that Kosovo should not be recognized. And Russia has led, I suppose, the global effort to deny recognition for Kosovo. Only half the world has recognized it. So thanks to Russia, the other half hasn't.
Just a little caveat here is that the official Russian position is that they will follow suit of what the official Belgrade position is.
Right. No,
if it were to change, Russia would adjust it as well. Okay, that's important.
I think that's true, but I think that it's a little more than that. I mean, I think that I don't think they just simply say, "Hey, it's up to you to decide." I think Russia really does feel very strongly that what NATO did in '99 and in violating the United Nations Security Council resolution 1244 in recognizing the independence of Kosovo, which Security Council Resolution 1244 prohibited it. And so Russia feels very strongly that basically what NATO did was illegal, illegitimate, and
right.
unacceptable.
And what I'm saying is that if for some reason a government in Belgrade would recognize the independence of Kosovo, it doesn't mean Moscow would. It just it just probably wouldn't be so vocal about it. I mean, if the Serbs their representatives at least want it that way, well, of course there would be. I mean, it wouldn't be like Russia would break diplomatic relations.
No, it wouldn't. But I would imagine if that did happen,
I'd be very disappointed.
I think Russia would be very disappointed. It would make its disappointment very clear. If you remember when Vucic went to visit Trump, I think it was 2019 or 2020, and then he signed some kind of an agreement with Kosovo. Well, I mean, obviously not recognition, but it was a kind of economic agreement with Kosovo, and it went together with recognition of Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. Zaharova, published a photograph.
It was a hostage photo.
That's right. But she juxtaposed a photograph of Vucic sitting in that chair in a room surrounded by hostile actors, with Sharon Stone's famous interrogation in police headquarters in the film Basic Instinct. I mean, it caused a lot of distress in Belgrade that this is the way Zaharova saw them. So that just gives you a sense that Russia really would look very much askance at Serbia just recognizing Kosovo. But anyway, what I'm saying is that there's no symmetry really between Russia and the West when it comes to Serbia. In other words, the West bombed Serbia. The West recognized, most of the West, not everyone, most of the West recognized Kosovo independence, no matter how illegal. Russia has been on Serbia's side. So neutrality in this case really is unwarranted. Anyway, there's a lot there to talk.
Yeah, I mean, it seems, again, this Telegraph article, I think, is extremely deceptive because, first of all, this global Britain thing, which whatever that is, okay. Yeah. I find it it's hard to take it seriously. But this is the UK showing its value to this special relationship because obviously NATO would love to capture Serbia. That's the most important prize left. But from Serbia's position, I think that they're not a small country, but certainly not a large country. They want to be able to maintain a semblance of their own independence and control of their sovereignty. But at the same time, they are the odd guy out, and they're aware of that. And I think that they have to travel a very careful path. They certainly don't want hostility from NATO, and they don't want the Russians to treat them with any kind of hostility. So I think it's a very, very difficult position. I think that the way it's characterized in the British press about a neutrality, I think that there's really no other real choice that they have. Okay, and I think it was really, at least they admitted that Serbia does participate in military exercises with Russia and Belarus. It shows some kind of symmetry there. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's stacked against Serbia. I mean, in so many ways. And NATO will never give up, never give up. They may not. NATO they're a bunch of suits. They're not military people. They're suits. Keep that in mind. Okay.
Right. Well, I think that's it. It has been important for them that they want to get. I mean, Kosovo is an embarrassment in many ways for NATO. I mean, first of all, they launched an attack against the European country.
George, you know why? Because every time they have an argument with us, we can say, what about Kosovo? And they have no answer. They have no answer. Blatant violation of international law. They have from a Security Council resolution that they signed.
That's it. And of course, they launched an attack without any authorization from the Security Council. Then once the resolution was adopted, they violated that very resolution. And you're right. I mean, it's like there's no basis then to protest Russia, which recognized South Ossetia and Abkhazia in Georgia in 2008, and Russia explicitly cited the Kosovo precedent. Again, NATO didn't like it. But there's also another question here, which is, you're not really supposed to recognize secession, unilateral secession. I mean, that's a kind of a basic violation of international law. They did it in the case of Yugoslavia, but then they said that, well, okay, we're just going to recognize all of the republics of Yugoslavia as independent states within their administrative boundaries. We'll call them international frontiers. But then they went back on that and accepted the breakup of Serbia. So, NATO's just gone backwards, back and forth, constantly changing its position. It's a great embarrassment. So if they can get Serbia to accept the independence of Kosovo, then at least, they'll say, hey, well, look, Serbia's accepted it. We're all friends now. It's all ancient history. Time to move on. As long as Serbia doesn't, and as long as Russia, which is in its corner, and that's why they keep talking about Russia's malign influence, because Russia is in Serbia's corner and doesn't want Serbia to.
Well, I mean, again, it's all about framing and how you contextualize it. I mean, obviously Serbia sees its geographical position in Europe, and it sees the EU, it sees NATO, and all of these things here. But for them, they're saying this is a false choice. We're with you, and we have to be against them. We don't have to do that. And again, Western media has a very hard time squaring that. And again, this is the sin of omission. I mean, you couldn't get a quote. You probably had a quote, but you probably didn't use it by saying, we don't want to have hostile relations with NATO members, but we want to have good relations with Russia, which was probably said, but it probably wasn't printed. Okay, it was because it's inconvenient. Okay, it's so George, let's give a hypothetical here. They agreed to join NATO. Are they going to be at the head of the table, as it says in the article?
Right.
I don't think so. They'll be relegated with North Macedonia. Okay,
that's right. That's right.
It's like it's like a cheap date. Okay, that's what it is.
But what's interesting about it is that what Serbia would like, and I don't know why, but the Serbian elite is absolutely wedded to the idea, is European Union membership. I mean, you'd have thought. I mean, it's been pretty disastrous for many small countries. But this is the Serbia's elite, the non-entities who have run the country since Milosevic. They're all absolutely committed to that idea, and they've been ready. They are ready to set out on Kosovo if they got this membership.
I know why.
It doesn't actually give it to them.
I know why. And I'm sorry, it's going to be a disappointing answer for you. But most of these people, these are liberals. They're not economists. They're not business people. They're intellectuals. Oh, in that part of the world, they're the worst people to be around, the intelligentsia. No, it's cultural for them. Okay, they want to be the West. Okay, and that's because they look at their past and they're embarrassed, they're shamed by it, and of course they're being friends with Russians. Oh my God, what can we do? Okay, it's cultural.
I agree.
Are you going to take the euro? Okay, really? Okay, what do you bring? See, this is what I told Eastern European countries when they were expanding, the EU was expanding. I said, what are you bringing to the table? What leverage do you have? And the later you get in, the less leverage. So Serbia would actually have the least amount of leverage of any country getting into the EU right now.
Right.
Okay. Oh, is it going to be like it was before the EU, but like the European Economic
Community?
Yeah. It worked with Franco and with Portugal. You get rid of these right-wing dictatorships, we'll help you. They did. Right. Okay. Right. And then, when you're in the queue, the sooner you get in, the more you can get you can cherry pick some of the benefits, the largesse of the German economy at the end of the day. Right. It's not there anymore, folks.
It's not there anymore.
There's no more big bailouts like that.
Right. And you can now imagine, I mean, after all, the Serbs see what's happened to the neighbor to the north, Hungary. I mean, look at the way Hungary's being treated by the European Union. I mean, if there's not a day that goes by without the European Union condemning something else that's going on in Hungary, how the football fans behave, some new piece of legislation deemed to be anti-gay, how the Hungarians open a monument or whatever. So it's like they are obsessed with every single detail of Hungarian life. Same goes for Poland. What about their view on abortion? What about their views on homosexuality? So they're going to do the same thing with Serbia, because they'll say, hey, you still haven't atoned properly for the terrible things that you did in the 90s. That's what's going to be every single day. Well, we're not happy with you. With this, there's a book that's just been published, which is defending Mladic. We don't like you publishing.
We're defending the family.
Right, exactly. We don't like this. So it's like, but this elite, they absolutely don't care about that. They couldn't care less.
It's elite capture. It always is elite capture because they get the perks, okay? When they have all of these lavish and wasteful conferences and confabs and, it's their elites and they really like it because, they put on a nice suit and you're with everybody else, you're elitist, okay? And it's connect. So you have more in common with foreign elites than you have with your own people. It's over and over and over again.
Right.
And so I think Serbia's in a pickle, but if they want to go down that path, you're gonna lose more than you gain. I guarantee you it. Okay, I've watched this process go on
because the world has changed since the year 2000. We got Russia now, a major military economic power. There's China. China's throwing a lot of money around. You really don't need the European Union anymore. I mean, it's like, but again, like many elites, they're so stuck in the past. They're still thinking in terms of, it's year 2000. We have no choice. We've got to get in with the EU. No alternative. Plenty of alternatives. So everyone's doing very well. I mean, it's like sanctions are losing their bite because there are alternative means of going around sanctions. Alternative currencies and so on. Serbia has options, but as you say, these elites, they are stuck in this idea of the West. Oh, Habermas, they've got these great thinkers, Jürgen Habermas, we're going to be reading that, and, Jean-Paul Sartre, even that, they're about 50, 60 years behind the times, but, great, we're going to have all these wonderful books, and we'll be studying them. So, yeah,
and we can get rid of the church, okay?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so it's again, I see these greedy hands, trying to pickpocket another country in Europe. Losing your sovereignty, folks, is really, really a dreadful thing because once you give it up, you never, ever get it back. And you won't be sitting at the head of the table, okay? Because you know what? If they're not going to pass you a menu. You know why? Because you are on the menu.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly, and that's what, unfortunately, like small countries don't really realize that, yeah, it's true. Germany after the war was quickly, became an important power, even though, it had been humiliated a few years earlier in the war. But Germany is Germany. Serbia is Serbia. What was done in order to get Germany on board, no one's going to bother with Serbia.
No. We'll keep an eye on how Russia reacts to these events. Okay, so we'll get an update as soon as it's warranted.
All right, Peter, where can we
we want you all, for your viewing pleasure, please go to Locals, where the address is thegaggle.locals.com. There is a tip jar, which we would like you to generously fill up. Buddy is a small dog, but he eats a lot.
He does eat a lot, exactly. Too much, in my view.
George needs some crumbs and tea.
Exactly. I'm gonna start pushing Buddy out of the way. I mean, I'm not happy. Yes. So please help us in whatever way you can. It makes our work much better and much easier. So whatever you can do, it will be most helpful. Look at that.
There's your competitor.
That's my competitor. I lose.
He's too cute.
Exactly. And we're also on Rumble. Look us up on Rumble. And remember, if you like the gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye. Bye, buddy.